progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. Through the steering wheel of the great Lexus, man, I love it.
Yeah, they don't make wood steering wheels like this anymore, huh?
That's right, man. How's it holding up? How's the car holding up?
Oh, it's a dream machine, dude. It's a dream machine.
Dude, I swear that car will never die. So for those of you guys who don't know, Ray purchased a car from me, dude, what, probably a year and a half ago?
1 year, 2 months, something like that.
Okay. And this Lexus, it will not stop driving. I forget how many miles on it, but it's just unbelievable. Like, it just won't stop.
311,000.
Nice. How was the weekend, brother?
It was good. Yeah, I mean, this car is a dream. It is. Wes sold it to me for $3,000 US. I have paid $2,000 of it. Wes, I apologize for not making the final payment. I will make it today.
Okay,
so look for that. And then let's get me the title papers and let's get this thing insured. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it, man. let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah, no sweat on the payment, man. I'm not stressed about it.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. But the weekend was good. The weekend is good, like the weather this time of year in Canada, you'll get a bit of a cold day and then a warm day, or like a cold hour and then a warm hour. So it's, people get sick because they don't know what to expect. They go out and they're freezing and stuff. But I'm just grateful for those warm hours and days. And I just keep saying to myself, oh, that's probably the last warm day we'll have for about 6 months. But, they keep coming. So, so life is good.
So I just got this. Oh, sorry.
Go.
So I just got this Whoop strap, and I'm looking through all the data, and I've listened to some of their podcasts, and exposure to sunlight keeps on coming up as almost a general theme, to the extent at which, when I was listening to this last Whoop podcast, whatever fitness expert was on there talked about the importance of sunlight exposure. Like, she only listed 3 things. I think like one was nutrition, the other was sleep, and the other one was sunlight exposure. So she thought it was so important that sunlight exposure was on the top 3 list.
Right.
So I'm starting
up there with like oxygen, up there with like oxygen and water. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, which, as obvious as it sounds, it was very much news to me. So with that being said, is there anything that you are doing or considering, given the lack of sunlight during the next, handful of months?
Like moving down to your couch for a couple of months?
Yeah,
no, now that, thanks to your program here, Wes, I am much more health conscious than I was, let's say, 2 years ago. Much more serious about my sleep, getting 8 hours, much more serious about drinking water, with the, and so maybe, Wes, if and everything else that's on the scorecard, right? And my life has improved, my life, I can't say my life has improved immeasurably, but I can say that everything is trending in the right direction, and so thank you, Wes, again, thank you for conceiving this program. And then second of all, maybe sunlight should be on there as one of the kind of one of the top 10 things on the scorecard that we must do every day.
Let me write it down here. Yep.
And so Whoop is like a kind of a Fitbit or something, kind of like heartbeat tracker and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be one of the best. I don't know if that's true. I know that a ton of fitness influencers recommend it. I don't know if it's because they're getting some large commission on it. I have no idea, but it's come up enough now where I was like, all right, let me try it. And the thing that's changed for me the most simple as it sounds, I've worn my Apple Watch for probably 3-ish years now. And the one major thing is that the Whoop has tracked my strain level and then told me, okay, if I want to get to a peak output tomorrow, what time do I need to get to bed today, given my wake up time? And that one thing alone has really changed a lot of things for me. Now, I've only been using this for probably a month and a week now. But I would say if it's done nothing else, if that was the only thing, it was worth the money so far.
Right. And then so Apple Watch has their versions of those prompts, but for whatever reason, this one kind of like resonates with you better.
Yeah. And I think when I did research on it a while ago, there were some interesting differences between like heart rate variability measurements, et cetera. So there's like a few pieces there that lead into being able to say, right, okay, here's your overall recovery, et cetera, which I don't think, at least my current version of Apple Watch, measures those metrics.
Right. Yeah. Like I agree. Like my knowledge of the inner workings, or the outer workings for that matter, of the Apple Watch are pretty lean. But from what I understand, from what I personally experience, like the tracking is good on the Apple Watch, but the predictive side of it isn't. I don't really get much value out of that. You know, like there's a little chime that says go to bed, or there's the little chimes that say like take a moment to breathe, or stand up. You know, you're almost there. So like they're okay, but like they don't. Yeah, so like you said, the predictive aspect, or the recommendation aspect, isn't as strong as just the measuring.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if the newest version of the Apple Watch maybe has upgraded some of its tech and is able to track those. So, but I can definitely tell you, I would prefer not to have to wear two things, one thing on each wrist. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you'll be like, your wrist will be full of bangles like a high school girl in the 80s or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So if anybody does know if the Apple Watch can calculate everything the Whoop straps can, then I would love to know about it. I just don't know yet. Also, the other thing is I can keep this Whoop strap on when I play basketball. I'm not worried about scratching the face of it. I can also I just bought this, I guess, underwear that keeps the actual technology in the waistband of the underwear. So Gross. I can wear it to MMA. Yeah. But so the Apple Watch, I have to take off for certain types of activities.
Yeah.
Versus the Whoop strap, I don't have to. And I'm also not worried about getting scratched up and dented and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I've got the Hermes limited edition Apple Watch, of course, with like the leather strap, and so yeah, I don't take it in the shower or the sauna or anything.
Yeah, I love both so far, but I do want to figure out if I can get down to one. But the crappy part about it is that one of the reasons I love the Apple Watch is because it has a face, it can tell time, it can show incoming calls. But that's also one of the reasons that I'm worried about wearing it during certain activities. Like I don't want to scratch the face, I don't want to scratch the sides of it, etc. There are little things you can put over top, so maybe I'll look in that. But for now, I'm tracking both pieces of data. I will say that the Whoop strap, I do like its weekly assessments and its monthly assessments. It gives me basically a PDF that shows, sort of a performance dashboard. So I really like that, and that's kind of like a nice piece of analysis that I can review. I don't review it on a weekly basis, but I did look at last month's activity. It was awesome.
Yeah, and with the Apple Watch, I do track my my workouts. Like I turn on the, I'm working out now, and then I turn it off when I'm done. And I haven't but I haven't really kind of like crunched those numbers yet. But for now, it's kind of stimulating enough for me that it's just I'm wearing it, I'm tracking it, and then at least I have that information to analyze, let's say year end or something, right? Yeah. Or, when I get around to it.
And to be fair, there's probably an app out there that does a lot of this stuff that you could connect to the Apple Watch. I just don't know of it.
Right.
I can also tell you that I've worn the Apple Watch, like I said, for multiple years now, and never once has it recommended that I get in bed for 9.5 hours. Never once. It always kind of gives me the, hey, if you want your 8 hours sleep. So there's something there. So for the first time, and dude, honestly, maybe since I've been an adult, I've slept a couple weeks ago for 9.5 hours to get my recovery back to normal. And I would have never thought that before.
So yeah, right. Because the Apple Watch tells me, hey, it's 10:55. If you want 8 hours sleep, you got to go to bed now. But what you're saying is your Whoop crunches the numbers of what you did that day and then gives you a sleep recommendation that's shorter or longer.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So I would show you guys here. I'm trying to refresh it, but it's currently refreshing my data. So yeah, and it's super simple. Like the interface. Keep
riffing. I'll be right back.
Yeah, the interface is pretty intuitive. It's not as intuitive as I would say anything you're going to get from Apple, but I would say for the most part, like I can kind of stumble my way through it. And like I said, that initial number, I'm trying to see if it can pop up now. I will tell it what time I have to wake up in the morning. So let's say 7:30, and then it'll say, oh, okay, you have to get to bed by 10:30 or 10:45 tonight. And as simple as that sounds, it's made a big difference. Now, I don't know, this is purely anecdotal, and I don't know if this is luck, but I could tell you that when I went to Vegas with my family and a couple friends, I think almost everybody got COVID except for me. Even though I tested negative, I think there might be a chance I did get it, but my symptoms were nowhere near as intense as the rest of the group. So Ray, what I was just telling everybody is that I don't know if this is just luck, but when I was in Vegas, basically everybody in our group got COVID and I didn't. And I can tell you, and I still had some symptoms, but they were nowhere near what everybody else had. And I could tell you that during my Vegas trip, my Whoop strap recommended a way beyond average amount of sleep because it said my system needed
because of the cocaine,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, because of all the cocaine.
That's exactly right.
And the unprotected sex.
Yes.
Dude, it's amazing. It's amazing, the technology. I mean, it's more powerful than what they sent the man on the moon to. And anyway, so I guess it'll take, there are probably so many different apps and wearables out there right now that, and with new ones coming online every week or every month or every year, that it's probably going to require a bit of trial and error on all of our parts to find the one that works best for us. Like a friend of mine, I think I may have mentioned it before. He's an art client and he's a friend, and he has he's obsessed with this stuff. He's in the music industry, and the moves he's making are into the therapeutic benefits, almost the medicinal benefits of music and sound. So he envisions a near future where a Apple Watch phone and headphones are synced. If the Apple Watch feels your pulse spiking, it plays soothing music or whatever audio to lower your heart rate. Right. And so that's not even the future. It's practically the present that we're in already. Right. But and so his house is full of different biohacking kind of stuff, for lack of a better word. Right. He's got the cold plunge bath in his basement. He's got the super red light that mimics the light of the sun. Right. So he takes so that's his kind of response to the lack of sunlight during our climate. Right. And then he's got because he wants to be a pioneer in this field. He's got this bed that measures vibration and the state-of-the-art goggles, state-of-the-art headphones, different machines that, produce kind of weird vibrations and stuff. So I don't think we need to turn our homes into laboratories of this stuff like he does, but we could definitely, based on our geography, based on our environment, based on our circumstances, just plug in and tap in and access some of those devices, right? Some of those, for example, I don't know if there's a place in the world where cold exposure isn't really an option, but it's very available in Canada, right? So I don't think I would necessarily need a cold plunge bath, but I can understand the wisdom of that. I'm happy enough with just a cold shower, and then plus during the winter months, maybe I'll kind of experiment with, running out and sitting in the snow or something like that. But I think maybe we can tailor our needs in terms of these biohacking tools based on where we are, who we are.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, I almost wonder, I don't know how much those infrared panels are, but I would be curious what would happen if obviously the data has to exist, so I'll just have to research it. But I do know a handful of people now that have those infrared panels. I know a handful of people that now have the meditation devices that they put over their head that's called Muse and Mendy. I've talked to several people over the last few weeks who have those.
And what's the upside of that, or how do those function?
Yeah, I'm looking at those currently, and basically you put it on your head. It's a strap that you put on your head, and it measures certain activity, I think, through some sort of waves. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point, but it measures whether or not you're in theta or X, Y, and Z, the different wavelengths. Again, I'm talking out of just kind of a novice perspective. And then it will give you a stimulus, let's just say, like you're saying, Ray, if your activity is not what it's supposed to be in your brain, or there's not blood going through your prefrontal cortex, it will give you some sort of chime. Like, for instance, there's this thing called the Muse, and you put it on there, and when you're going through meditation, if it notices that your brain is in, high activity mode, let's just say that, it will start to play a rainstorm. Mm-hmm. And then once you calm your brain back down, it starts to play like little birdies or something along those lines. So it gives you some sort of feedback. But I will say I've got a friend who uses it and he swears by it. He's been using it for several years.
Right. So like the technology my buddy was kind of predicting, it adapts to your condition and stimulates you in different ways to keep you in the zone, whatever that is.
Yeah. Now, I believe it's supposed to train you so you understand what the feeling is like. So it's just that piece of connective tissue that says, oh, okay, this is what calm feels like. Mm-hmm. We now have some sort of technology feedback that says, okay, this is your body at a neutral state. No different than I imagine if you put a heart rate monitor on, where a lot of people don't understand that their heart rate's running too high, constantly. Okay, now this technology will help me. It's like, oh, this is what normal feels like.
Right, a path to self-awareness, where you can, where maybe you don't need the technology as much, and you're able to self-regulate. Right? Yeah,
dude. Because I don't know about you, but I try to catch myself now from meditating so often throughout the day. I'm catching on to these little subtle nuances, like, oh, I'm actually simmering in stress right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not boiling, because that's where it'll be highly noticeable, but I'm simmering. I'm slightly agitated, 85% of the last couple hours. I need to meditate. I need to get my system back to neutral.
Yeah, same. Having just brushing up on the Levels of Energy book this morning and driving around, I'm reminded that threat detection is the word that we've used in the past, but that's not even the right thing. It's threat assumption. Right, is the kind of mode I travel in sometimes when I'm at that 85% level, right? And I'm not kind of exploding with rage, and I'm not honking the horn so much, and I'm not road raging or lashing out, but I'm at that when I'm at that threat assumption level,
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, threat assumption, and even and because the Levels of Energy kind of model, I'm thinking of road rage, I guess, is the road rage would be the worst in the lowest form, right? And then up from there is threat assumption, right, where I'm on high alert for an altercation. Right. And kind of Terminator 2 style, measuring everybody for like what kind of threat they are. And then to graduate out of that, it would be maybe just like being judgmental. Right. And so that's what I was thinking about today. Whereas like, I'm not in the looking for a fight level of energy. I'm not really in threats, assumption or threat assessment, or I'm in like the judgmental stage, right? Where it's
What's
like
an example of that?
Well, weak, strong, rich, poor, doesn't have his shit together, has his shit together, right? Like just like, again, that kind of Terminator 2, just like wasting mental energy on these kind of like almost universally negative feelings and negative kind of like being judgmental, like I'm not saying that using the analytical part of your brain or my brain seems bad to me, but there is a like you said with the 85% simmering anger, like there is a pattern here, and that pattern is that I'm like analyzing everything I see like a normal, like conscious, cognizant creature, but then there is a like tallying up the people's faults, right? So it's basically, what are my complaints about that person? What are my complaints about that person? Like I see a homeless person, right? And it's like, what do I not like about that? I see a rich guy. I'm like, what do I not like about that? And again, this is a kind of an automatic, unconscious kind of like programming on my part, where the work that we're doing and maybe the book, all the work that we do, not just this book, but all the books that we approach and all the work that we do has put me on notice of that pattern of behavior. And I mean, and again, pattern of behavior kind of flows well into our next topic on Friday, which is cognitive behavior therapy, right? So like, which is the tools and the practices for interrupting these patterns. But so right now I'm in pattern awareness.
Now, let me ask you this. So do you think that the human brain is just automatically wired to constantly compare and contrast? And if so, can you turn it off? And if not, could you at least redirect it to something that's more fruitful? Right.
So like God gave us the compare and contrast ability. Like he gave us those buttons in our brain. So I'm not unique, or I'm not, my brain isn't kind of disfigured or something because it has that. But like, obviously we have a compare and contrast ability, like, and maybe all creatures do, right? But the question is like, so there's steps in between, but I'm at the point like where it's like, is it serving me well?
Right.
Right. Or am I using it correctly? So compare and contrast, fine. Good, hot chick, not hot chick, delicious sandwich, not delicious sandwich, like, safe brand new tire, like old worn out tire. Like the compare and contrast obviously is like an essential, like, biological kind of instinct or imperative, but like the way I use it, the way it expresses itself in this particular way, does not serve me. I'm just trying to get to my appointment. I'm just driving across town, and the comparison being the thief of joy, right? The comparing, like, and kind of like grading everybody I drive by in terms of like, if they're a loser, I'm better than them, or if they're not a loser, I'm jealous of them, right? Like the way that compare and contrast activity in my brain is expressing itself does not serve me.
So are you saying that you feel like it cannot be turned off? And I don't want to assume what you're saying. So let me
no. Yeah, no, you're hearing that correctly.
And then
like it's like, or it's like,
redirect it?
I don't know if it cannot be turned off, but it's like I left the switch on for sure. Right. And like, I left that switch on in my brain, and it's been on for years, maybe decades. And so I'm currently just kind of looking for that switch to like, to turn it off and just be like, you know, like, just be more rational about it. I need to get to my appointment. It doesn't matter who's walking down the street, you know, or it's clogging up my Ferrari of a brain. It's mucking up my Ferrari of a brain to be filling it with those kind of like datum.
Yeah. You're wasting miles on it.
Yeah.
So what are some ways, like what's coming up for me is I wonder if there's ways, because I think I've got the same thing. I think probably every human does as well. What are some ways that you think we can redirect it? Is it some sort of, hey, I know automatically my brain is going to want to compare and contrast, but can I catch as quickly as possible and then insert a better thought? Like, that guy's giving me an example of what I could be. Right. Or he built that skyscraper. Oh, that's awesome. I now know that a man can build a skyscraper. Maybe I want to build a skyscraper too. So it's actually inspirational rather than, oh yeah, but he was probably rich and
an asshole. Right. So like, maybe don't think in absolutes, right? Maybe don't think like I have to be just like him, or he's the only guy who can do that. I think absolutes comes up in CBT next week or next session. Maybe think there's something I can learn from that guy. Or there are some of his attributes that I could like tweak in myself that would get me a little closer, right? I'm reminded of shaman Matt McCusker's like approach where he says like, "I love you," like in exchange, it's like we were joking around on the pod about like, if you go around this shopping grocery store, right, thinking like that guy's probably going to bump my cart, that guy's probably, you know, buying a bunch of junk food. Like instead of like all those judgments and all that threat assessment or threat assumption, if you just go around thinking I love you, right, that is that thought replacement. And then the higher levels of energy, maybe you say out loud, I love you. Like that's what we were joking around, where you just walk around the grocery store saying I love you to everyone. Yeah. And so I try that. I swear to God, I try that when I'm driving. Just like saying I love you. Like the windows are closed, obviously. Yeah. And I cover my mouth. But like I'm driving and I've tried saying like I love you just to complete strangers that I like would otherwise have these negative judgments. But I'm feeling like this isn't making a whole lot of sense what I'm saying, Wes.
No. So I actually completely agree with it, which is, how do you have these pattern interrupts, which is just the acknowledgement of it, and then how do you insert something new that's more empowering? Because then that will impact the subsequent thoughts and behaviors. And dude, I need it too. So sometimes and this is only when I'm on top of my game, like with this kind of stuff. But oftentimes what I'll say is I'll try to get to a level of empathy so that way I can make progress, which is like, oh, there's that annoying person in the grocery store. I remember when I did that. You know, when I used to do that or whatever. And it's like what we talked about a few weeks ago. Oh, they're just on their journey, just like I was. And also now what I try to do is compare and contrast my progress relative to my own projects, if that makes sense. Oh, Ray is wearing this really cool whatever. Okay, that doesn't matter. What matters for me and my family is where am I at in my own progress with my own projects. Rather, where is Ray at in the status game versus me? Right. So I think just those pattern interrupts, which is just stopping the pattern and then inserting willingly. I
love you.
Exactly. Whatever that is. Because it's way better than, oh my gosh, that guy sucks. He doesn't know how to drive. Why does nobody know how to drive ever except for me? You know?
Right. And so like, I'm getting there, Wes, because like at my stage, I go around, saying I love you to everyone, and I like end up in my driveway, turn off the car, and I think, what a weirdo I am. You know? Like, I mean, imagine if I left my cell phone on, or like, you know, and like someone. So, but I love that the pattern interrupt this kind of like improvement occurs in stages, right? There's the pattern interrupt, and then there's the inserting the better thought or the alternative thought. And I love the idea of empathy as, and this is like, you didn't invent this. This is like almost every, like, I'm sure this came up in Landmark. I know this came up in Hoffman process for me, where it's like, if you can get to the point where someone is being a jerk on the road, and you just think to yourself, they must be having a bad day, or do you know what I mean? Or like, I would hate to be in the car next to them because they're probably extremely frustrated, rather than like, engaging in whatever fantasies of like pulling out his car and punching him out or something.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that empathy, like at first it's not as satisfying, right? Or and even like if you don't practice it, it's not the first thing that comes to your mind, right? Like you have to kind of remind yourself, which is funny because like my wife tells me that like it's either sociopaths or psychopaths have no empathy. Right. So here we are just kind of like, hey guys, practice empathy. Don't forget. Yeah. Or it's like, it's a dead giveaway that we're all sociopaths, but it's interesting. Like you say, everything's a practice.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. I remember one time, so I've done this a lot, where inserting the thought of it's not my game, because my brain will just go like all the time. And I remember the last time I was on a plane, and dude, being on planes just drives me crazy. It's like, you know, from literally the start of like before we're even on the plane, like why is everybody
get in the car to the airport?
Dude, everything. You know? Especially the thing that drives me crazy the most is like when people are huddled around the line, like to get on the plane. And they just dude, you ever try, like, dude, have you ever been to Italy? It's like, you have no idea how bad it gets, man. You have no idea. Just like, it's like if a window in the plane broke and everyone gets sucked. Like as soon as they announce zone 1, it's just like the whole crowd. And, and the ticketing agents call them gate lice, which isn't, I mean, that kind of sounds like a Nazi kind of like term, but like, gate lice, because like, you know, they're in there, they multiply, and you can't really, you gotta like, you know, you can't like, you know. So I wonder if voluntary exposure to these kinds of things would help. Like legitimately.
I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to see you on the news, dude. Like, you know, local citizen arrested for air rage incident. No, but well, there's things we can, like, I was just talking about this at a lovely outdoor lunch party on the weekend with some French people who, like, French people know how to throw a party, man. It was so classy. But we talked about like how in a couple, you know how, do you remember in John Gottman, like he said it was unhealthy to think of one person as the saver and one person as the spender. And because you always do that. No, you always do that. So this is probably unhealthy. But I've noticed that in couples and in families, one person is like dragging their feet at the airport or packing and getting out the door. And the other one is like a nervous wreck about being on time, being early. Right. So like, I call it Airport Sarah. When we get to the airport, she automatically starts walking faster. And it's like, what gate? Come on, guys. What's keeping you so long? And she needs to hold all the documents, even though she's just it's like, you know, I'm a grown up. I can hold my own passport. No, she's got to hold them all. And so like, and we agreed that, and then I'm the kind of guy who's like, I get stressed. I'm checking the flight. I'm checking like the Google map to see like how long it's going to get me to the airport. I'm stressed about the line. But if I can, like, I also feel a sense of satisfaction if I get to the gate just as it's closing, get to my flight just as it's leaving. You know what I mean? Like that I've kind of timed it like a ninja, right? But we all agreed that getting there super early reduces the impact that a long line can have, or reducing, right? There's things we can do to, and again, so I'm sorry to like, to drag it out, but like the exposure therapy, like my version of that is like, there's things we can do to mitigate the pain.
Oh, without a doubt. It's like the red light syndrome. You know, when you're late, all of a sudden you feel like you've gotten every red light and you're screaming, when in the reality it's like, no, it's very likely just the same exact pattern. You're just now feeling stressed because you are responsible for being 30 minutes late.
100%.
You left 30 minutes earlier. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. And so there's people who are rich have no job. They can fly business class. They can take a flight on a Tuesday in the afternoon where there's going to be no lineups, or like there are times there's times in any of our lives where we can kind of like really like time it, play it right, time the market that way. It's right to minimize those things. But otherwise, like being prepared, planning ahead, and leaving more than enough time to get there creates the best chance of minimizing those pain points.
Yeah, and I think on the topic of the book that we're currently reading, so Levels of Energy, one thing that I could tell you has produced massive value in my life the last probably like year and a half, 2 years, is for the first time I started focusing on my energy conservation so that I could focus in the right direction. So for instance, I used to almost exclusively fly red eyes, almost exclusively, because it was like, oh, well, I could just take the red eye. It's cheaper. And I also flew for free oftentimes with my mom's pass. But like those are often the planes that had the most seats open. And then I could just kind of take intermittent naps throughout the journey over to the East Coast.
And maybe you wouldn't miss a day of work before and you wouldn't miss a day of work after. Exactly. All you'd miss was 8 hours sleep,
Yep. On both ends.
On both ends.
Literally. Yeah.
Right. We don't pay a price for that at all.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, and that's the thing, man. So now I focus on how can I conserve my energy and invest in it. And it's made all the difference in the world. It just so happens to coincide with this book and the fact that we're bringing it up. But man, if you guys have a chance, where in your life are you bleeding energy, or do you have holes in your bucket of energy that are a choice, if that makes sense? So now maybe you have newborn and maybe newborn kids or whatever, you can't do it there, but like where are those holes in the bucket that you could plug that you're not? And for no other reason than maybe you haven't thought about it this way, or you're just refusing to do it. Don is saying women. Absolutely. So where are those things?
Yeah. And so, what I was just talking about, like being under a spell of negativity every time I drive because I'm complaining about everyone I see, that is bleeding energy. Like this is what I'm talking about, like that really impacts, because I was just doing a job interview for a new employee today between like 10 and 11. And what would be the difference if I was like kind of grinding my teeth and muttering about everyone I drove past, or if I was just maintaining a good kind of like, not meditative, but like a good, a good healthy outlook and neutral, like balance, a good sense of balance before I got to my job interview.
I wonder,
right?
Yeah. And I wonder if almost that's a way of real time meditating, like, getting impacted by,
I was going to use the meditation word, but like, I'm not sure if driving, I think you need to master meditating first before you try it while you're driving.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's some sort of form. So for instance, if I'm driving and I say, okay, I'm now going to try to actively meditate, which is kind of paradoxical or oxymoronic maybe to some, but I think there's benefit of it. Okay. I'm going to go through the world as opposed to sitting down in my chair and just saying, now I'm going to meditate. I'm not going to have any external pressures. But now the opposite, I'm putting myself into the world. And for the next half hour, I'm going to try to, knowing that I'm going to get distracted and pissed off, whatever, get back to neutral. I might try that today. I think I'm going to try that. Actively.
Yeah, so the two things come to mind. There was a quote I posted to the Rhomas Instagram, which was like, and I can't remember, it was like Descartes or someone like that who said like, the world would be a better place if men could just learn to sit quietly in a room for a little while, right? Meditation, in other words. That's what I took away from that. Second of all, Huberman mentioned on one of his pods once that he tried not listening to music or not listening to podcasts when he's working out because the podcasts and music were in order to make working out more tolerable, right?
Right.
And so what he was training himself to think was that working out is bad, and I need all these extra things to make it to mitigate that bad. So in a way, like I think what you're proposing is training ourselves. Right. So what does he do when he works out? He takes out those external stimuli, even if they feel good, and just focuses on the working out because it's a good, right? And so with driving, I think that meditative state would be if you can drive, yes, observe the rules of the road, the red light, the green light, but don't be polluted by all the external noise.
Yeah. I was out to dinner last night, and funny enough, this guy, I'm just remembering now, we were all sitting at the same bar. We went to like a Chinese, really, you would love it, Ray. It's this great Chinese restaurant. And then you don't want to get reservations there because it takes like 3 weeks to get reservations. So you're going to stand in line and go up to the bar directly. So that's what we did. And sat next to this guy, ended up having a conversation, and almost like Mr. Miyagi type of like wisdom type of dude. And then when I get up to go, he said, "Stay happy." And I was like, that is such a great line.
Damn.
Yeah, such a great line. So I wonder if there's an exercise in that. So how can you be happy on your way to work? Mm-hmm. And whatever you guys are doing today, give this 20 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever you can tolerate for today. Okay, I'm about to do this thing. How can I stay happy? And when I become sad or whatever, frustrated, how can I get back to happy? So it presumes that there's an answer.
Yeah. And with therapy, like I know that it's come up a lot of times. It's like, what are your goals in therapy? And we say to be happy. And the therapist will often say, well, that's not really like, that isn't really it doesn't work like that, you know? Whereas and my understanding from that discussion was that therapy, to shed your baggage will get you to contentment or a sense of peace, but happy is kind of a fantasy, right? And so I don't accept that. It might just be a difference in terminology, right? Because I think that when people say, I just want to be happy, they don't mean I want to be like high on helium gas all the time and giggling, right? They mean like, I don't want to, like, whatever they mean. So I like that stay happy. Because you don't even have to, like, I don't think you don't have to use a one universally accepted definition of happy. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, and
path of progress, like it could be path of progress. It could be laughing. It could be, right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's like, where in that spectrum do you want to experience some sort of positive feelings? So whatever that terminology, and Ray, I agree with you. Maybe there's something lost in translation when we hear, oh, you shouldn't want happiness. Happiness is, or whatever. It's like whatever positive emotion that you want to feel, why not just try to feel that? And yes, like if you're saying that, oh, I want to feel ecstatic all day, ecstatic to me, it kind of implies this like sort of like overreaction that's not sustainable. But I would say for the guys listening, don't let the terminology get in the way. Pick the endpoint that you want, whatever positive emotion, and can you constantly try your best to get back to that? I don't see the harm in that. And and Gunther's comment is great. He said, we're shedding some baggage today. I think there was this great part in Landmark where they talked about every conversation and every interaction that you have with another human being, unless you're aware of it and trying to actively, play against it, you're bringing all of your baggage to that particular interaction. I mean, how many times now have we been in relationships or friendships, et cetera, where you put the table salt down on the table the wrong way and the other person freaks out, or vice versa. That's not because of the table salt. It's because whatever baggage, mental associations that person had, that was like a trigger. That's bringing baggage to a situation. So yes, how can we shed things like that? And I think Ray and I are walking through some examples of that today.
And you're not broken for bringing your baggage. Like, right? Like, just like, it's okay that you bring your baggage because we all do. That's what humans do. Yep. And so it's something that it's part of our journey that we have to master our baggage, right? Like it's part of our journey, it's like we have to draw the lessons from that and not be yoked by that and weighed down by that.
Yeah. And let's, Ray, if you're cool with it, I might invite one of the guys up here, sure, just to share if I'm going to invite some of you guys up here, if you can't make it, no sweat, but I'd be curious about any of the guys. And Gunther, I know you're typically working, so I'll just invite some of you. Don't feel bad if you can't come on. But I'd be curious if any of you guys have examples of what do you particularly struggle with in real time that maybe you could use today to help get over, in terms of like, what's that like immediate stimulus, whether it be driving's a typical example, or the way your girlfriend talks to you, or your wife, or your whatever, your mother-in-law calls you and you instantly get that negative stimulus. How do you counterbalance it? So if anybody wants to share that, awesome. If not, no sweat. But Ray, what is the goal for the week? I'm going to throw you a curveball. What's your major goal for the week?
Well, we talked about where are you bleeding energy, right? And so like there's different things with my business that I have to I don't want to bleed money, but then again, is it a waste of money, or are they important investments in my business, right? For example, Wi-Fi. I don't have Wi-Fi at my gallery. I'm just I keep running downstairs to borrow the free Wi-Fi, or I keep hoping that someone else is going to move in and I can just steal their Wi-Fi signal or share their Wi-Fi. Yeah. And so and Sarah complains that it's $30 a month. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 40, 45 at the most. But that's an example of and I thought about this again when I was conducting this job interview today. It was what are the things I'm doing that are foreclosing opportunities out there, right? Mm-hmm. So, and because conducting the job interview was an opportunity to kind of teach, but also be kind of vulnerable about what I do well and what I don't do well. Mm-hmm. And we got into this conversation of opportunities, and I said that the abundance is out there. We just have to there's things we must do to turn that into opportunity. Right. So do I hire this person, even though I hate the idea of spending more money on payroll? Right. And will I have enough? Am I doing enough sales in order to hire a person? And then Wi-Fi, what's the hang up on spending an extra $50? I was thinking about going to the Four Seasons and getting Eggs Benedict and conducting this pod, because I was wasn't sure if I was going to get home in time. So that, no problem. You know, but there's something about taking the doing, spending the capital necessary to run my business, that I have to kind of be brave and kind of just take those leaps of faith.
Can I throw something out there to you?
Yeah.
Just as a man in the fight with you. Yeah. When I usually wrestle with stuff like this, especially if it's a tool for my craft, I always take the opposite default. So, okay, right now the default is I don't have it, and I'm kind of trying to weigh my options. I would say jump in and have it. So the default is that you do have it, and then the analysis should be, okay, now that I have it, do I not need it?
Is it working? Yeah.
Now
that I have it, is it working?
In other areas of life, but for business,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that I have AIDS, is it working? Now that I have full-blown AIDS, is it working? Right. No, right. But now that I'm spending right, you're right. I can spend the few $100 on getting Wi-Fi over the course of a year, not upfront, but you know what I mean? I can spend the whatever, 50, 100 a month, and then I'll be in a position to say, is it worth it? Do I need it?
Yep.
Right. But right now it's I don't have it. Is it worth it? I don't know. Do I need it? I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So with the Wi-Fi, and then the new hire is really the challenge, because there is a billionaire friend of there's a friend of the family that's a billionaire who lives in Connecticut, and this is their cousin who moved to Toronto. Young lady's 25, and they're call Ray, ask him for a job. And so I told her in the interview today, first of all, you would have loved it. I asked her, what are her goals? What does she want?
Yeah.
What job does she have now? Why isn't it working? I took out my vision board and showed her. I took out my goals and showed her. And I said, okay, your next interview is tomorrow at 10 a.m. where you'll be meeting my assistant, Charlotte. Bring your vision board and your list of goals.
Love it.
Right?
Hell yeah.
And I also told her that if I hire you, you will be selling art to your aunts and uncle who are the billionaires. I was just very upfront,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like I showed her a vision board of my dream clients, right? And then like, these are people I know. These are people I have a relationship for 10 years. We sell to the people we know, and we're not going to sell them something they want. And I'm sorry to derail, like, but I was just so pumped up because like a year or two ago, maybe I would have hired her and just kind of like been too uncomfortable to say, I'm hiring you because, or like when the billionaire said, get a job with Ray, that's an exchange. That's not a favor. Right.
Yep.
And so I'm pumped. So that's what I'm doing this week. You know, have I offered this billionaire art? No. Did the universe send me their cousin? Yes. Will I try it for 3 months, 6 months and see if that turns into sales with the billionaire? I think I'm going to.
Hell yeah. So same thing. Having the default, assuming it's not a crazy, stupid decision, having the default be yes. And I also reserve the right to change my mind. But I also think when you're working with other human beings, just being super candid with them and saying, hey, like, yeah, it seems like a good situation. Let's try it for a month. Let's try it for 2 months. Yeah. And then we will revisit. And then I will even double down on the hedge there and say something along the lines of like, hey, I want to make sure I reinstate, like, this is purely a temporary thing. And if we choose to end it, particularly if I choose to end the relationship, 99% chance it has nothing to do with you, if that makes sense.
And well, I have not said that. I'm not saying yeah. I'm saying yes. I like that, and maybe Wes, I can give you a call to to workshop that. Yes, and I reserve the right to change my mind. Like, of course, like I'm worried about saying yes and then kind of being too insecure to change my mind. But an opening I left myself, Wes, was like, I talked about 10,000 hours and Malcolm Gladwell's idea that the Beatles are great hockey players or whoever. Practice their craft for 10,000 hours before it unlocks their greatness, right?
Yep.
And so I said, the reason the vision board and the goal list are so important is because if your goal is to be a doctor, you know, I can help you meet some doctors and maybe see if they want like a receptionist in their doctor's practice so that you start getting your 10,000 hours, right? If you want to be in sales, and I told her, like, creative field is unstable. Sales is unstable. However, every industry has sales. So if you're going to take this job, we're going to sell art to your aunt and uncle because all we do is sell art to our network. Mm-hmm. And you're going to sit next to me and do Sandler sales training.
Hell yeah.
And love so, but she has to decide that she wants to be in sales first, right? So that's why and if she doesn't, then if she takes time to do the goal review and the goals and the vision board, I will be able to assist her in terms of a family friend kind of, you know, I mean, it's going to probably be less amount of time that I can dedicate to that. But like, if she doesn't do the vision board and the goal list, and she doesn't know what she wants to do, I think I have to, like, you know what I mean? I have to be realistic. Like, I'm not sure how we're both going to benefit from this.
Dude, I love what you're saying. And that could be a whole topic in itself, a whole podcast in itself. When you were embarking on a journey with another human, the destination and the method, like, of transport needs to be discussed. And the degree to which it is, in my opinion, is strongly correlated with the success or the failure of that mission. So oftentimes when things are left too casual and there's not very clear consent on both sides, like, you're leaving yourself very vulnerable for some sort of massive disruption to that relationship.
Right.
Like, oh, I thought we were going this direction, and hey, now that we've traveled this way for 6 months, it seems like you want to go over here. Well, that could have been predicted on the outset, if that makes sense. So I love how you're saying it. Okay, we're about to do this thing, but let's make sure the thing that we're about to do, we're on the same page with. And if we're not, that's okay. But being very clear that the transaction has to be relatively equal on both sides. If it's not, then it's purely a temporary thing. Obviously.
Right. And a job interview is like a perilous
Oh, you kind of cut out.
like environment for that. Sorry, call came in. The job interview is a perilous environment for that because for most of my career, I've just tried to say whatever I had to say to get the job, right? And so I tried to set up terms like with her where it's like, I don't want to do this like the way I've done so many times before, where I've kind of like embellished or lied or just kind of like, exaggerated in order to get the yes, right? Like I said, I came with the approach that like, there is no job. Like I'm not looking for someone.
Yep.
And I actually told her that your aunt and uncle, I've been thinking about how to sell them art for 2 years. And I didn't. I could have just wrote them an email, could have called, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And then the universe sent me you. And I mean, I may have used that Disney language or I may not have, but that's definitely that's what happened.
Love it, man. Keep me up to
and
speed.
So yes, I will. I'll let you know how it goes. But like, I put her on full notice that she's on a magic carpet ride with me. With the vision board and the goal review and the the ayahuasca, the mandatory ayahuasca trips quarterly and everything. And I just want to shout out Lucas. He said he was deep cleaning at 7 a.m. and his boo kind of complained about the chairs being out of place.
Yeah, I think his mom.
Okay, right. And, that's a boo. And he keto is not fighting first thing in the morning because that would be dumb. And so, yes, Lucas, I can learn from you on that where I need to practice not getting defensive too, or that's something we know not to do, right? Defensiveness, right? And so it shows me, Lucas, that you didn't go into defensive mode right away. And so that's awesome.
Yep. Love it. Mr. Ray, we are past the hour, my friend. Thank you as always.
Good
Any
chat.
last parting words of wisdom?
No, man, but let's do it on Friday.
Hell yeah. All right, dudes. Have a great week.
Bye for now, gentlemen. Thank you.
Later.